It's one of the best movies I've ever seen, and it is without a doubt the most depressing movie I've ever seen. It's called The Road. It's a bleak, bleak look at a world after a catastrophe. And honestly, folks, every single time I wake up, I just feel like I'm a little bit deeper into this amazing movie. Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Whittle here with Steve Green and Scott Ott, and we're talking about the desolation of the 2016 election, which, as I said before, is kind of like us being on the Titanic, spotting an iceberg 80 miles away, spending the next 7.5 hours sailing directly into it, ripping out the sides of the ship, and plunging to the bottom of the ocean with heavy loss of life. My question for you gentlemen today is this. Whether Donald Trump wins or Hillary Clinton wins, both sides have been so demonized, and perhaps rightfully so. Both sides have such incredibly high, deservedly high negatives that you have to ask yourself, how is this country going to be governable after one of these two people wins? So, Scott, let's start with you. We're big in the rule of law. You understood the founding of this country better than anybody I've ever met. Did incredible work called Freedom's Charter back at the previous establishment. I still think you can see those. But talk to us a little bit about the social compact, Scott, because I have to tell you, if the President of the United States goes into office as a multiple felon who was not prosecuted simply because of the corruption in Washington, D.C., I no longer feel quite that bound to consent to be governed by people like this.
Well, and let me just, because you're talking about that interplay or that dialogue or that ability to govern together, let me just flip that around from the other side. Somebody who is from the left hears you say that and says, how can this country move forward when these people on the right think that somebody's a felon even when they've never been charged or convicted of a crime and treat her as if she's already undergone a judicial process? So how can we reason with those people, meaning you, Bill Whittle?
Yes, well, we can reason with them because we can read an English sentence. That's why. Because we can read an English sentence.
So
I'm not feeling the love.
Yeah, the love isn't here yet. We'll get to it. But I think what that does, probably more than anything, illustrates the challenge that we face, because especially in a political process, it behooves the candidates and their handlers to tell us constantly that the other side is the pure essence of evil. And then one of these people is going to get elected, okay? And then afterward, you're going to have to somehow figure out a way to govern with the checks and balances and separation of powers and all of that. And so then if you, who spent 2 years saying that that person was evil, are now in a position of trying to negotiate a piece of legislation with them, the people on your side say, you're making a deal with the devil. How can you do that? But you knew all along, oh legislator, that you were going to have to work with somebody after the fact. You hoped it wasn't her, but it turned out it was her. And now you have to work with her. So I think that the way we conduct our elections and our campaign processes really mitigates against good governance, because you can't sit down afterward with the person you said was the worst person who's ever strode the face of the earth and then say, oh, by the way, we've come to an accommodation with this person.
Well, what about you, Steve? Right now, as we record this, it looks very likely Hillary. Things can change. There's still a little over 3 weeks left before the election. But right now, it's, as you pointed out, it's looking pretty bleak. So let's just assume for a moment, Steve, that Hillary Clinton is sworn in as the next president of the United States. Yeah. Do we have a responsibility to obey the laws as we would have before, knowing that this person has broken so many laws with impunity? Or is this in fact the kind of thing where you're now dealing with an order that is an immoral order? In other words, if a colonel tells me to gun down a bunch of civilians and I'm a sergeant, that's not an order I'm going to obey.
Oh boy, a while back I was taking my my concealed carry class, and the instructor gave us a hypothetical situation. Let's say you're driving in your car through a part of the state that has more stringent carry laws. What are you going to do? Are you going to leave your firearm at home? Are you going to take a chance? What are you going to do driving in your car through some place with more restrictive ordinances? And I raised my hand and said, I'm going to do the speed limit. So I think I think maybe that's the attitude we have to take, is maybe we don't have the same moral responsibility to follow the law, but we also had better keep our heads down, because believe me, they're going to be coming after you.
That's right.
Careful. Watch yourself. Be smart. Be paranoid, maybe even a little, but not to the point where you make yourself miserable. Look, looking past that, though, when Reagan was president, he had 2 tracks with the Soviet Union. The first track was to put Pershing II nuclear-tipped cruise missiles into Western Europe, and this was a huge thing. I mean, there were riots all over West Germany.
Yep,
but he got moral support from Margaret Thatcher and Helmut Kohl to get this thing done. The second track was actual nuclear reduction talks, the START 1 and START 2 treaty. These weren't the SALT talks that set limits on how much more both sides could build. These actually reduced the number of nuclear warheads in each side's arsenal. So he was pursuing peace through strength on one hand, while pursuing nuclear disarmament on the other, and that dual track worked. The next time we get a conservative in the White House, I think we need to have sort of a dual track with the progressives, and that is we will stand firm against all of their law breaking and their statism and all the rest. But on the other side, I think we need to talk about reducing these weapons of mass destruction that we use against each other in the realm of politics. In other words, we'll stop calling your people felons. You stop calling us racist. You stop using this. We'll stop using that, and reduce things, reduce the tensions until maybe we can come to a place where we can have useful dialogue again.
That sounds like a big injection of common sense to me, Steve. You might want to become part of the common sense resistance.
Baby, I'm there.
I'm there too. It's a conundrum, isn't it, folks? We're facing a future that, as I said, like in this movie, The Road, it just looks so bleak that all you can do is just put one foot in front of the other and just go another step or another yard or another 100 yards, or find a can of beaten up old peas to eat and just go another yard. It feels like that sometimes, but that's what they want us to feel, and that's not who we are. It's not who we are as a people. We have been smacked in the jaw more times than anybody else, I think, on the face of the earth, and we simply face the music, understand what the threat is, and then we get up the next day and we fight it, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to do it here at BillWhittle.com with the support of our paying members, and we're going to do it out there in the world and get these videos out there as much as possible. One of the things we've said a lot in our shows today is that this battle for the future of America, this revolution, is going to be a digital revolution. It's not a war of bayonets and battleships, a war of narratives. It's a war of passion and ideas and delivery and all of that. So even though I started off this episode by citing The Road, which is, again, a masterpiece of depression and gloom, there's another piece of media that I think is extremely appropriate for us in these dark times, and I'd like to think that this following clip helps a little bit with the attitude that we're going to have around here, which is party in the gulag. So enjoy this serious piece of political commentary, and don't forget to not let the bastards get you down.
Oh, baby, I miss you. You'll be doing all right with your Christmas up with your wife. But I'll have a blue Christmas.